SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network Link 200. I am your host, Spencer Presley, joining you for this very special episode, which will feature a wide range of guests from the SMTN podcast and community. But before the podcast really gets started, I just want to take this moment. I'm going to be talking, obviously, in between each of our guests coming in and out of the show, but I just want to tell everyone listening to this, for starters, thank you for listening not only to episode 200, but if this is your first show or your 200th show, I cannot thank you enough. This has been such a weird, long journey, and 2020, especially for not only me as a person, but the podcast and starting the YouTube channel more seriously, has just been a crazy roller coaster, as I'm sure 2020 has been for many of you all. Now, if you aren't aware, episode 200 is all about SMT to me. Now, SMT to me doesn't just mean me, it also means all of you in the SMTN community. So a couple of weeks back, I basically just did a call out to everyone who was interested in submitting in writing, in audio or video form, something they could send into the podcast and just basically use this as an outlet to talk to all of you the way I get to each and every week. So SMT to me doesn't have to just mean one thing. What SMT or persona means to me might be something different to you. People across this will be talking about moments in their life, games that were really inspirational to them, things that got them into the series, moments that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, and whatnot. I know for me, I have so many things about not only what SMT means to me, but honestly, this whole podcast to me is what SMTN means to me. The series as a whole is something I'm always going to love. I love playing SMT, I love playing Persona, I love playing video games, I love Atlas as a company, no matter how many times I will complain about them on a weekly basis. And hopefully you all understand where I'm coming from each and every week. So, I know I've talked about this a bunch in the past, and if anyone out there is a long-time fan, feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to hear the history lesson again, but in case anyone out there is a new listener or just a new member of the SMTN community, I want to just give a little bit of a look back into the year 2012, which I cannot believe 2021 is going to be 9 years of SMTN, which is just insane, especially when you realize I've only done 200 episodes of the show in 9 years, but don't think about it that hard. But what's so funny is SMTN is always been a podcast from its very inception. I remember back when I worked at gamingunion.net, I started the show with Melissa, I started the show with Will, and I started the show with Lauren, and it's so funny to see how we started as 4 people on Skype talking about Persona once a month or doing commentaries, then evolved into not only talking on a forum, then going onto a Facebook group, having fight nights, playing Ultimax all hours of the night, watching E3 live with each other, meeting up at conventions. It's so funny to see how much the fandom has kind of changed over the years, somehow stayed the same in different aspects, but even for me, what I find interesting is all of the ups and downs. I mean, obviously SMTN as a community isn't perfect, but what I always find interesting is you can look back at sometimes I've been more active, sometimes I've been less, and it's never been out of a lack of interest in the community. I've always really prided myself on at least interacting with the community, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, or just people reaching out to me online. I have never taken a day off running SMTN. I personally feel that way. But obviously the podcast, there have been breaks, there have been things of changing, just look at 2020. SMTN started as a solely Persona podcast back in 2012 with 4 people, and now, over the last year, I have been doing this show almost every week by myself, bringing on different guests, different people in the industry, trying to get different perspectives, talking about different subjects. And what really started as a case of me wanting to try something different, I've been reflecting on it a lot more recently, especially after this episode. But the first really big apparent thing to me that I found interesting was I have friends who I met through SMTN who I'm still really, really good friends with, who might love the series more than they did when we first met, or even some who've fallen out of love with the series, but we're still really good friends. And what's so interesting is, like, I'll miss doing the show with, like, Waffles or Melissa and Will and Lauren and everyone who's ever been on here. At the same time, I can't ever force anyone to, like, really be the co-host. And I've never thought it was fair to expect each and every host to have as large of a wealth of knowledge as I do about the series, just because being a fan of something doesn't mean you have to know every little aspect about it. I'm just weird, and when I get really, really into a fandom or a series, I like to learn and know as much as humanly possible, but I know not everybody's like me. The world does not need multiple Spencers, trust me. So, over the last year, it's been really interesting reflecting on doing the show solo, learning about different people in the fandom. Like, I know just a couple of names that really stand out. Like, the past year, like 2020, I got to learn, in no particular order, I got to spend more time with Gnarly, or John, as I keep calling him, because I am terrible at using online personas more. I knew Gnarly forever and ever and ever ago as just some dude in the SMT and Facebook group who lived nearby me. And what's been funny is, like, over the last year or so of us talking a lot more, collaborating more, seeing each other outside of the occasional convention, which obviously didn't happen that much in 2020. But it's just been so funny of, like, yeah, what started as, like, just another dude in the Facebook group is now a pretty large and popular content creator on YouTube, and is now doing his own podcast again, the Megadolan podcast. So it's crazy to think, like, how much that's changed. LaRue has been someone I've known for the longest time through the Facebook group as well, with his Did You Know Tensei posts, things like that, and watching his channel and his social media stuff change has been so crazy. I got to meet people like Jax Bagamaka, or Mac as I keep calling him. That's been really, really fun. I got to meet people like Ozzy and Seniorish. Gabby has been really, really great to have on and just talk shit with on Discord. Like, each and every one of you, especially Discord. Like, the SMT and Discord has been around for so long, but, like, for the longest time, it was just one of those things I made because, well, I wanted to have every little social media thing covered by SMTN, even if we weren't really using it. But this was the first year of me actively trying to be a better person about it, because, like, for the longest time, I just had old man syndrome of, like, nope, I don't get it, I don't get how Discord works, blah, 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 blah. So, using Discord now, it's been so fun of, like, now when I go in there, I see people in there and I now know their names. I don't just know their usernames. I interact with them at least hopefully on a daily basis, try and give more Twitter updates. Twitter has ballooned incredibly. Like, I went from a couple, like, hundred, like, I think I went to barely having 1,000 followers to almost, like, 4,500 followers in a year, which is insane. People I see interacting exclusively on Facebook, whether it be through the group or just interacting on Discord and Twitter or YouTube, it's all just been so crazy, and I love meeting different people, talking in the comments, getting different perspectives, whether they agree with me, disagree with me, think I'm stupid. Like, I'm here for all of that. I love as much of that side of the community as possible. So while I was a little sad kind of reflecting that I now do this show solo, I think at its core the reason I did it is still true. I'm really glad that I'm doing this now solo in an effort to get as many new voices onto the show as possible. Now, like, while I love having the dynamic of having, oh man, like, it's just me and a couple other friends meeting up every week talking, scheduling-wise, that is way easier than trying to do this either by yourself or with different people. But I love getting to meet new people. Like, I got to meet, like, just looking back, that's how I got to meet people like Cameron from DualShockers, Michael from GameSpot, Alyssa from DualShockers as well, can't forget her. Just so many different people. Obviously, this year wasn't huge for, like, having interviews and stuff, but even over the years, like, just the different interviews that I've got to have through, whether it be people working like Keith at PCB, or having Aaron on again back in September for our birthdays, things like that still feel really, really special even after over 8 years of doing this show. So, really, really long tirade, really, really long rant for my first kind of what SMTN means to me, but I hope that kind of makes sense of like, I want you all to know that no matter how much the format might change of this podcast, no matter how much the social media input or activity might change, whether it be more, less, whatever, no matter how many numbers of followers, subscribers, members in a Facebook group or Discord, I'm always going to be here. As long as my heart is ticking, I'm passionate about this community because at the end of the day, this community doesn't just give me a reason to do a podcast and put my name out there. This community is something I've defined the better half of my 20s with, and something I'm proud of. Obviously, you can go back and listen to every episode. I'm sure I've said many, many horrible things, but for the most part, I've had a really great time. I've loved getting to meet new people. I've loved getting to do dumb things, making new friends, making so many memories, and it just means the world to me to have even one of you all listening to this, and the fact that it is hundreds of you listening to it each week, discussing it with me, just makes it even more worth it. And I love seeing that number rise more and more. So, like I said, really, really long intro. Sorry about that. I'm going to get into the first guest, and we'll be talking more, so hopefully that was not too sappy. But yeah, thank you all again so much for not only helping me get to episode 200, but hopefully here's to 200 more. Alright, so the first guest, in no particular order, is going to be Will, fellow podcast co-host for many, many years. I've not had him on the show in the longest time, and honestly, being totally honest, I've actually not talked to Will in many years before, a couple of months back when I was planning episode 200. Like I said, people kind of change, people either drift apart, like talk more, talk less, things change like that. But I wanted to reach out to Will just because I knew this was a really important milestone, and it had been way, way, way too long since him and I had really gotten into touch with each other again. So here is what SMT means to Will.
Hey, Spencer, and everybody listening to SMTN 200. This is Will, one of the original podcast co-hosts back from when it launched in 2012. I just wanted to share with you my SMT to me story. SMT to me was a journey that I started just as I was leaving high school and moving out of home. It was one of those franchises that helped me reflect a lot on my past failings back in high school and even in my current life. Back then, I had never really played a game that sort of held a mirror up to my face and just told me, this is how you truly are, this is how you act in front of everyone, this is how much of an imbecile you are. And thinking back on it, this has been one of the most reflective franchises to me as a gamer, but in a good way. It was also very therapeutic to show me the other side of that as well, to also show me that I can also turn my life around, that the path I was taking wasn't the only path for me. It also showed me that nothing in life happens without a reason. After going through the third semester of Persona 5 Royal, it kind of hit me in the face with this realization that, sure, there are some things in life that are painful, that made you struggle, but at the same time, those same struggles can also be what brings you to your closest friends. And without those struggles, you wouldn't have those friends. And I learned to appreciate the friends that I made during my struggles. Spencer, of course, being one of them. And I think if it wasn't for SMT, I wouldn't have been in this community that eventually led me to meet Spencer. And we got to hang out a lot and have such cool conversations during the podcasts. And even just outside of podcasts when we just hit up each other on Skype back when that was a thing. But going back as a game franchise and how it fitted me as a gamer, SMT was one of the first franchises to teach me how to be passive, how to think strategically, and how to organize my team compositions, and how to prioritize buffs and debuffs, which is something that I still utilize in a lot of the games that I play. Everything that has a certain difficulty curve with it, I always think back to my times playing SMT games and how that has helped me beat certain boss fights. all in all, SMT is a franchise that I keep playing and I will keep on playing to help me improve, both as a gamer and as a person in life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much again, Will. So, yeah, like he said, I have been talking to Will for the longest time because we started the show way back when. And honestly, man, it's so great to hear from you again. Hopefully, we can get you back on the podcast for a much longer catch up than just a couple of minutes of talking. But all of this past podcast host nostalgia would be a little weird if I didn't throw Melissa's audio clip in. So here is Melissa speaking to us from the distant future of 2 days before uploading this.
Hi, this is Mel, also known as Fatal Flare. SMD helped me meet so many of the friends I have today from around the world. From starting with Persona 3 to playing Digital Devil's Saga, my favorite SMT spin-off series, on the PS3 digitally, to playing SMT 4 on DS. Each experience has been meaningful through cosplay, fan art, and discussion. I'm super excited for SMT 5, and I can't wait to see where this series will go from there.
Thank you, Melissa, so much. Again, just similar to with Will, it is so crazy hearing your voice again on this podcast, even though it's definitely not been as long. I think Melissa's last podcast was the original Catherine Full Body Western release, so it's not been as long as Will, but again, definitely need to get Melissa back on here once she starts playing games that are not just Final Fantasy XIV and reminiscing about DDS. But hey, who can blame anyone? DDS is an absolute classic. Either way, let me welcome our next guest, which is Michael Hyam from GameSpot. You may remember him from joining us a couple of months back on the podcast, and I was so happy that he was able to submit something for episode 200. So, here's Michael.
What up, y'all? It's Michael, and you may recognize my work from hit video game website GameSpot.com. And I've covered Persona a lot, and I don't want to really retread a lot of the things that I've expressed already in my work, but I do want to talk about how Persona has affected me personally. And, you know, the cliche of like, oh, this game changed my life, whatever. And, you know, that's perfectly valid if that has happened to you, because it's happened to me. But to really understand how you carry on those lessons that you learn from a game into your own real life, I did a little bit of reflection on my for myself and on my own. And I think that having games like Persona, where being able to express your emotions, express your feelings, and to be able to communicate that and see that through different lenses, different perspectives with these casts of characters that we always bond with, that we always connect with, those are things that I can learn. We're playing 100-hour RPGs that, you know, we love. They're fun, and we would jam out to the music, and we get connected to the characters, and we connect to the story and all those things like that. But I thought a lot about how I interact with people in my own life, especially back in my hometown before I played any Persona games. And I found it a lot easier to express myself, to communicate my feelings and emotions. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially when you grow up feeling like you're obligated to bottle it all up inside, where you showing your emotions is a sign of weakness. That's kind of something that was implied to me growing up. But Persona is one of the factors that have really flipped the switch for me. And because that game puts that at the forefront, being able to come to terms with how you feel and grow because of that. We see these characters that we love. We see them grow. We learn from them. We see how they fail. We see how they conquer those things. And it's one thing to really love these games because of that. And it's also another thing to take that into your own life. And that is definitely something that Persona has affected for me, is to be able to communicate emotions and not be afraid to express myself to other people, because sometimes you just don't know what that looks like. You don't know how to do that until you see an example of it. And that's one of the many things that Persona has offered me, and I think that has offered a lot of other people out there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Michael. I really appreciate you being able to be a part of this episode milestone for us all. Next up, we have Ryan. Take it away.
So, you asked me to tell you what Megaten means to me, and that's simple. Megaten has been one of the most defining JRPG franchises in history. The series as a whole has encompassed some very unique as well as interesting changes to the entire system of how we work with leveling up characters. fusing demons, and has inspired many games, as we've seen with the modern Digimon games. But one of the most important parts of the series to me is the choices that you're able to make. Whether you're playing through Persona or Devil Survivor or mainline Shin Megami Tensei, there's always that feeling that you have full control of the narrative to some extent. That even though every ending in some ways may be linear, there are different variations in how you reach that ending. One of my favorite Mega 10 games is Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. While there are many endings, the way that your character interacts with the world, the grueling difficulty, the atmospheric soundtrack and ambient sounds really add to that full experience. Even though most JRPGs are filled with menus or filled with different, more similar systems, the way that the game's aesthetic comes to life is what has made every Atlus game, especially the Mega 10 franchise, so unique. Whether you're playing through a narrative-based game like the digital Devil Saga games, or you're playing through Nocturne, or you're playing through Shin Megami Tensei 4, or you're playing through a Persona game, there's a unique Atlus aesthetic that encompasses the game in every single way. If you boot up a Persona game, there's that feeling in Persona 5 of that nice, unique, modern-day, yet rebellious atmosphere that permeates the entire experience. Whether you're going through the menus, you're speaking to a shop owner, or you're speaking to a Y, there's always a unique sense of atmosphere that has always added unique influence to each Atlus game. Whether it's reading what directors, from Hashino to people like Hitajo who compose the music, or Meguro who compose the basic main music of the Persona series, as well as Nocturne and the Digital Devil Saga franchise, there's always something unique to the way Atlus crafts their games. And Mega 10 definitely holds a special place in my heart. It's connected me to so many people, was a major part of why I became so involved in Japanese localization. It is why I become so involved in JRPGs as a whole, is because even as a young kid who had gotten into Persona during 4th grade, I had been really intrigued with the way Atlus had presented their games. And it's no secret. I think that one major point to anybody getting into Mega 10 is to definitely just start wherever you want, because no matter what Mega 10 game is your first, you're always going to have a unique experience that you'll remember. And it's definitely a better time than ever to get involved and start playing a game in this franchise.
Thanks for that, Ryan. Next up, we have a clip from my good friend Michelle, otherwise known as Senorish. So, take it away, Senorish.
Hi, I'm Senorish, and I am what you would call a fake SMT fan, because I've only played Persona 3, 4, and 5. I plan on getting to the rest of the series as time goes on, but for now, I just want to talk about the Persona games I have played. I first got into the series with a Let's Play Persona 4 Golden, and I instantly fell in love. At the time, my 14-year-old self had never seen such an interesting story with such amazing characters in a video game. Now, of course, since then I've played plenty of games with amazing stories, but back then, this was an eye-opening experience to the storytelling potential in video games. I even bought Sony's failed handheld just so I could play the game for myself. Persona 3 FES is the game that I played the most recently, and despite my undying hatred for Tartarus, I adore this game. Out of every Persona game that I've played, this is probably the one that surprised me the most. I knew I'd like it, but I didn't expect to love it even more than Persona 4 Golden. But I did. All the characters surprised me in just how much I loved them. Except Fuka. I don't like Fuka. And despite this game's very slow start, once this game got going, its story never really let up in the best way possible. It was just incredible moment after incredible moment, and man, it was so great. I just really wish I didn't have to play Tartarus. Which brings me to the best video game ever made. Persona 5 Royal means more to me than I could ever put into words. As a game, it has the most satisfying combat I've ever seen in a JRPG. The visual style blows me away every time I see it, and the story and characters remain unmatched for me. It's also the only one of these 3 games that I consider to have consistently good pacing, so that's always nice. I don't think I've ever seen another piece of fiction where I loved and related to every single character as much as I did with Persona 5 Royal. I adore all 10 Phantom Thieves, and Ann in particular is still my second favorite fictional character of all time, only being beaten out by Lily from Kadowa Shoujo. Play Kadowa Shoujo, by the way, it's free. On a more personal level, this game is the reason I was able to meet so many of the amazing friends that I still have to this day, which also led me to my first romantic relationship. And even if I'm not in that relationship anymore, it was still a life-changing experience for me that I never would have had without this series. And not to be too dark here, but Without Persona introducing me to all of my incredible friends, I honestly don't think I'd be alive today. I love Persona. It's my favorite game series ever, and I will always treasure the experiences these games have given me, and maybe actually play a real SMT game at some point this year. Thank you for listening, and sorry this took me so long to get to you, Spencer.
So, I don't think it would be right for me to introduce anybody else besides my good friend Oziak. Thank you so much for submitting this. Thank you so much for letting me drag you on the podcast so many times. And man, we are still very, very overdue for that Steak and Shake visit. Either way, everyone, here is what SMT means to Ozzy.
In March of 2018, it'd been nearly a year since I'd been roped into Persona and Megaten as a whole. I could go down the spiel of I had no friends and Persona taught me how to appreciate bonds and whatnot, but honestly, things didn't make an insane change for me until I got into the YouTuber Fither, who only added to my intrigue with SMT. When March hit, the year anniversary of P5 was around the corner, and Fither decided to host a little video discussing how the game impacted him and everything great about it. Not dissimilar to this one, where you could simply submit your audio alongside an avatar and he'd include it in the video. Me, being someone insanely passionate about this game, and also wanting to get my feelings out there, wouldn't hesitate to put in my submission. To be perfectly honest, that might be the absolute worst recording of my voice on the internet at all, so don't look it up. Hey, nope. I said don't look it up. But, so I found myself included in that video, yet alongside it I noticed there was a little Discord server dedicated to Persona fans that I'd never heard of. This may sound kinda dumb, but being someone with legitimately no one I talked to regularly at the time, this realization that there were strong communities for discussing the things I loved online was a total blessing. And I didn't hesitate to download Discord and jump in there. Once I got in, I talked a bit, but social anxiety was in full swing, so yeah, that was a nope for me. However, for some reason I ended up hopping into the server chat every so often, and just talking to some of the people in there, discussing my thoughts, opinions, and all things of the sort. Including some really dumb idea to make a video about Okumura's palace in P5, but who gives a crap about that? Fast forward nearly 3 years, and almost all of my closest, most treasured friends were people I either met through that server chat, or people met by extension of that. We haven't frequented that server in quite a bit, so that era is behind us. But the fact that those small steps all led to me by a simple game would completely revolutionize the course of my life, it's unfathomable. SMT and Persona aren't just series that I have an attachment to, but rather are solid parts of my life at this point. They're games that are emblematic of how I've grown as a person, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Now back to Spencer, or the next person, or my mom, or whatever the heck comes after this.
Well, unfortunately, as much as I tried to get Ozzy's mom on here, she was still not willing to listen even after the restraining order pleas. So I got the next best thing. And by next best thing, I mean the admin of the SMTN Facebook group, Torin. Well, one of the admins. So without further ado, take it away, Torin, and enjoy his SMTN podcast debut.
Alright, I'm sitting outside. I'm on my AirPods. It's gonna be noisy. You're gonna have to deal with this, Spencer. You can edit this out. Fuck you. I don't know, man. This series is like a hit or miss. You know, it's really weird. There's multiple things based off of religion in it, and then you're like, that's weird. Kind of cool. Alright. You know, there's like story points about chaos and good and evil, and shut the fuck up. I'm not 13. I'm not edgy. But if you like Friends, it's not a bad community to meet friends. It's where I met a lot of my friends on the internet. Some of them are okay. 2 of them are dating. Yeah, it's weird. They met each other through here. You did that, Spencer Presley from the Shin Megami Tensei network. You did that. Everybody's cool for the most part, you know. It's very tight-knit community, basically. I don't think I'd give it up for the world. No homo.
Thank you so much for that, Torin. And yes, folks, I promise he has played these games before. He just sounds like I was paying him to record this in the parking lot of a Denny's. So, without further ado, I guess considering Torin kind of already spoiled it a little bit, I'm going to be introducing Kat, who is a longtime friend that I met way back in, I think, TaioCon 2016, along with Drew and Patrick, although that was the year before, so shout out to them if by some miracle they end up hearing this. But yeah, Kat is a longtime friend of the Facebook group that has then turned into a real friend, and then has turned into asking us to play Fortnite a lot, so yes, if I am ever playing Fortnite, it is probably with one of these people, and Kat is that one person. So without further ado, here's Kat with a K, not C. K-Kat.
Shin Megami Tensei and SMTN means a lot to me, but above all, it means love. I met my fiancé, Marcus, through SMTN. Without the group, I wouldn't have met such a wonderful man. In fact, I met a lot of wonderful people because of SMTN, like you, Spencer, as well as Drew, Keith, Torin, Patrick, and loads more. Without this group, I wouldn't have been able to meet anybody, really.
Thanks so much for that, Kat. Well, speaking of other halves of people, next up I am, I think, legally bound to, if not introduce this person, probably go to his one-day wedding, as my good friend Marcus from also the SMTN Facebook group. So, take it away, Marcus.
I honestly do not know where I would be in life without SMT and Shin Megami Tensei Network. Like, I started to cosplay because of this group, and I've met dozens of great friends here as well. And most importantly, I also came to know my fiance from this group as well. So both SMT as a series and this group, I'm incredibly thankful for. Cheers, Spencer.
Thanks again for that, Marcus, and Kat, and everyone else who has done this before. I just am so used to saying their names back to back, so forget everything I said before that. Yes, I'm keeping that in. So next up, we have someone who is not dating on the Facebook group. At least I'm pretty sure they're not dating anyone on the Facebook group. Next up, we have what SMT means to them, and by them, I mean SSJ for Tarful. Enjoy.
Greetings. My name is SSJ4 Tarful, and today I'm going to explain what the SMT/Persona series means to me. Before I get started, I want to thank SMT Network for this opportunity, and I would like to congratulate everyone on the 200th episode of the SMT Network podcast. Thank you. My journey with the SMT and Persona series began back in July of 2020, when one of my close friends purchased Persona 5 Royal for me. Up until that point, for months, he had been asking me to play the game, purchase it, saying I would love it, and I kept saying I would eventually. He was sick of waiting, because he wanted me to play it at that time. So he got it, and I graciously accepted. So I then started the game, of course, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. The style and gameplay just felt perfect. However, the story was what truly sold the game for me. It was the closest thing to a perfect story I've ever seen. The characters were so relatable, specifically Makoto and Akechi. The questions the story asked were extremely deep and made you think. In some cases, it felt like the questions were made just for me. At the time, I was transitioning into college, and I was going through a bit of I guess you could say maybe a depression, but the game just really helped me get through it. After beating the game, I just felt so complete. I felt like I had been mentally rejuvenated. After I beat Royal, I then went on to purchase and beat the Japanese version of Strikers. I used a fan translation, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to play it again in English. And at the moment, I'm playing Persona 4 Golden on Steam, and it's been a lot of fun as well. After I finish Golden, I do plan on playing Persona 3 FES, and then finally get into the mainline games with Shin Megami Tensei 4. This series means the world to me, and I'm beyond blessed that my friend introduced it to me.
Thanks so much for that, SSJ4. It was an awesome story. Next up, our next submission comes to us from Squirmy Elk 2. Here you go.
I will openly admit, Smash Brothers is what first got me into the Persona series and JRPGs as a whole. When Joker came to Smash, I wanted to know about where he came from. I got rid of my PS4 a while back in favor of a gaming PC, so I watched a Let's Play of Persona 5. I was considering emulation, but I lacked legal methods of obtaining a PS3 copy of Persona 5. That one Let's Play got me hooked onto the Persona series, so I wanted to learn more about it. Unfortunately, I had no legal methods of playing any of the entries in the series. I wanted a legal way of playing Persona on PC. In fact, I never had any hope of seeing any Persona games on non-PlayStation platforms until the Persona 4 Golden leaks last summer. On the day of the PC gaming show, I was waiting for that moment for Persona 4 Golden to be announced. When it happened, I bought that game right when I heard the news. I felt like my dream came true, to play a Persona game legally on my PC, especially one that absolutely needed to leave the chains of the Vita. To me, Persona is a franchise that seems like it is ready to grow. I personally want to see the Persona and Megami Tensei community grow. For that to happen, Sega and Atlus need to port these games to other platforms. With the announcement of Persona 5 Strikers coming to PC, I have more hope for this franchise gaining even more attention. At this rate, I might as well say we should expect the rest of the Persona backlog and Nocturne to come at some point as well. I want to see this franchise grow and thrive. Who knows, we may get Megami Tensei on Xbox at some point, though that could indeed be reaching too far. This whole year changed my view on the Persona series and its possibly bright future. The more platforms Mega 10 reaches, more money will be made for Sega and Atlus, more people will be able to access Mega 10, and more people will enter the Mega 10 community.
Alright, next submission for what SMT means to them is from Philip. So, here you go.
So, name's Comrade Stinky, and I just want to talk a little bit about, SMT and Persona. I started out with Persona 4 a while back, and then I got into Persona 5. Wonderful game. Then I played Persona 3, Catherine, SMT Nocturne. I want to backtrack, play some more of the other games that Atlus has made. I met some really awesome people. I got to hang out a bit with Ozzy. Got to see Senorish. It's just really, really, really a great community. Awesome people. There's it has its ups and downs for sure, like any other major community. But I think it's great. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's an impactful series, and it's very evident that how passionate some of the fans are. That it affects everyone in quite a different way. But I definitely enjoy it. I think it's a great series, and it's the 25th anniversary of Persona, so hell yeah to that. I'm excited to see what happens next. SMT5 is right around the corner, so that's going to be really fun. And it's ignited another passion in me. I've played a lot of JRPGs, but Persona just hit a different chord, and SMT is phenomenal. And I'm just excited to see what Atlus has in store, and I'm very thankful that they were able to give us this series so we could build this community that we have, even if it is a little bit dysfunctional. It's great all the same, and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
All right, man. Thanks for the submission. And our next one is going to be so fast, this introduction might almost be as long as their submission. So without further ado, here is a very speedy what SMT means to RB Ramen.
Hello guys, it's boy Ramen, RB Electric. To what SMT means to me or Persona, it means friendships. It means getting better as a person. And that's pretty much it. You guys seen this? Yeah,
All right, RB, thank you for the very fast and very to the point submission. Next up comes from Gnarly, like I mentioned at the top of the show, longtime friend of the community, podcast, everything like that. So without further ado, here is what SMT means to Gnarly.
There's just too much for me to say about what it is that makes Megami Tensei so special to me. I could easily say it's because of the fun and strategic combat, or maybe the interesting stories and characters, the way it handles morality and alignments, the way it deals with all the mythologies from around the world, the awesome artwork, the awesome music. But what really makes Megami Tensei special to me as a series is the amount of diversity within it. Every game offers an experience that contains all the things that make the series great, but they also innovate in ways that make them stand out. If you want a classic, challenging dungeon crawling experience, play Mainline. If you want something that lets you juggle life simulation with dungeon crawling and combat, try the Persona series. If you want some action RPG combat with a film noir story and setting, try the Raido games. These are just a few examples, but Megami Tensei is such a broad franchise with so many different games, so many different ways to play them, and just so many different experiences to be had. I've been a fan of this franchise for almost a decade, and I don't see myself getting tired of it anytime soon. And if you've never played it, I cannot recommend it enough.
Thanks again for that, Nyarly. Now, as I mentioned before, someone who I would not have ever met over the last year was Mac, or from Jack's Bag of Maca, or it might just be Jack's Maca, or it might be JOBMACK, MICKEY, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme song starts playing. Either way, here is what SMT means to my good friend Mac. Take it away.
Hello, it is me, Maka, formerly of Jack's Back of Maka, now just of Jack's Maka. Hello, it is I, Maka, formerly of Jack's Back of Maka, now of Maka, and I am here to talk about what Shin Megami Tensei means to me, for my good friend Spenger over at the Shin Megami Tensei Network. If I had to summarize in one word what SMT means to me, it would be satisfying. All the way back when I first got into the series, I started with Devil Survivor Overclocked. And I had never really dabbled too much in strategy RPGs or tactical RPGs or whatever you want to call them. I had played a little bit of like the Final Fantasy Tactics sequels, but never the original. But outside of that, I just never really played that many tactics games. And when I picked the game up, I found it really engaging with its characters and its plot. And its gameplay was very, very unique. And that was just kind of like a reduced take on the press turn system. And shortly after I got overclocked, SMT4 was coming out, releasing on my 17th birthday, actually, meaning SMT4 was the first rated M game that I could legally purchase without my parents. I don't know if it's legal, but you know what I'm talking about. When I got that game and I was able to experience the full version of the press turn system, I just started falling in love. It was so rewarding yet punishing. And I ended up getting all 4 endings of the game in less than a month, and all I did that entire summer was just play that game. And as soon as I finished it, I went and ordered a bunch of the other games, and I started playing through them. I still haven't played through all of them, but I want to. I desperately want to at this point. And even when it comes to the games like Persona or Strange Journey that don't have the press turn system, or heck, even the older games, they're still satisfying in their own ways, or they're still fun in their own ways. Persona, particularly Persona 5, really makes you feel like a badass as you're just playing around. I really love the feel of that game. And then for like Strange Journey, that has probably one of the most interesting settings in the entire series, not to mention the co-op system is rewarding in its own right because it rewards you for your alignment. It makes your alignment matter in gameplay, and that's something that I really do wish was a more common thing in the mainline games. The whole series is just so much fun to me, and it's one that even though no individual game is my favorite RPG, I can easily say it is my favorite RPG series, and it's the reason why I'm able to talk about this series when it's not even my favorite RPG. There's just so much here, and I just really appreciate basically everything the series does.
Thanks so much for that, Mac. I could not agree more. That's like one of the things I always think about the most of like how I've been doing this show for so many years and played through so many games, new, old, unreleased, only out in like Japan, stuff like that. But what's so funny is my passion being like so large for the series, and then looking back in retrospect of like, oh yeah, like I love Final Fantasy probably more than SMT and Persona. But what's so funny is like I'm not on a weekly Final Fantasy podcast, not anymore. So shout outs to Final Fantasy Union, but like it's still like so funny of like probably my knowledge is way deeper of SMT just because of stuff like this show and the community. So even though it is probably like not up there as much as like some other nostalgia things like Metal Gear Solid or Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy, it is still a series that is so special for so many reasons. Either way, our next segment comes to us from Matt Wob, whose name I probably messed up again because I sometimes either get it totally right or totally wrong. Either way, here's Matt.
What's up? I'm at the Wab. So, what does SMT mean to me? The Megami Tensei franchise has impacted my life in various ways, starting with my first Mega 10 game, and it's still my number one favorite game. Persona 5 really got me to look at my life and try to work to be a better person. I was going through a rough time in my life when I had first played Vanilla P5 back in 2017, and the experience of the game really helped me at that time. Mega 10 also helped expand my gaming tastes and really made me appreciate JRPGs more. Since I've played Persona 5, I've played so many amazing games that I wouldn't have thought of playing before. Games like Dragon Quest XI, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Final Fantasy VII. I really appreciate what the franchise has done for me so far, and I really can't wait to continue playing these wonderful games. And that's all the time I have. Play Gravity Rush and play 13 Sentinels. See ya!
Thanks once again, Matt. One day, I promise I will feel more confident saying your first and last name next to each other. Well, either way, our next submission comes to us from Matthias, and here is what SMT means to him.
The Shin Megami Tensei series as a whole is a franchise that I keep close to my heart next to other series that I grew up with, like Street Fighter or Metal Gear Solid. When I was a teenager, I was going through a small, rough patch that led me to want to isolate myself for a week or two and just play some video games to cool down. And what I happened to pick up that week to get into just happened to be Digital Devil Saga, the first one, and Persona 3. And it just opened a whole world of other games as I hadn't experienced the JRPG genre that much. And as I got more into the series, I just happened to mention it on some multiplayer game. I don't remember exactly which, and when I was playing it on Steam. And it led me to meet a group of friends that to this day, 7 years later, they're still some of my most trusted people that I have ever met. So that makes it special to me. SMT is something that has helped me bond with people that I had never met otherwise. And that's why I keep it very, very dear to my heart.
Thank you so much for that. I could not have agreed more. And I promise this is not just me filming these all out of order. I am listening and reacting to all of these, at least after the fact, live for the editing process. So, next up is someone who I've not had on the podcast yet, but is definitely someone I really wanted to hear their opinion from. You may recognize some of her work from Twitter. Next up is Kitty Misa.
Konnichiwa. Hello everyone, this is Kitty Misa, also known as Amira on Twitter. I draw mostly about SMT and Persona stuff, and a lot of other things. It's a pleasure to be in this video. Okay, first, I'd like to congratulate SMT Network for reaching 200 episodes. That's a lot. Omedetou gozaimasu. Thank you for your hard work. Secondly, please forgive me for my bad English. It's not my first language, so I might mess up a little. Okay, without further ado, let's talk about what does Megami Tensei mean to me. Okay, frankly, it means a lot. It's because of Megami Tensei that I managed to make new friends through cosplay. First, in Malaysia, where I'm currently staying, Megami Tensei is not that popular. But because of Persona, okay, I mean, I started out through Persona. I meet new people, and we would occasionally gather and talk about Megami Tensei. It's because of them that I know more about Megami Tensei. And it's not just that. Actually, I think Megami Tensei is very rich in lore wise, and I'm to be honest, I learned a lot more about gods, deities, and they prompting me to do more research about them. Just out of curiosity, just hop on their Wikipedia because you want to know more about the god or deity or demons. So yeah, I think I grew a little bit smarter playing this game. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, Taisho era. I fell in love with Taisho era because of Gami Tensei as well. Yes, my favorite game is Kuzunoha Raido. And I know Taisho era can be very controversial to some, but I love the fashion and the atmosphere, and only by playing Kuzunoha Raido gives me that feel. Ever since then, I just love anything about Taisho era. It's all thanks to Mikami Tensei. Well, there's a lot more I want to say, but but because of Shin Megami Tensei, I met some really nice people in the community who share the same interests. Like I met Nyarly, LaRue, Gab, like who else? Maka, Marsh, everyone. Like I can talk about SMT to them like without holding myself back. And also, I love the arts posted on Twitter, and sometimes, we have this Discord chat where we have friendly debates on which alignment is better and joked about it. It's things like this makes me love Megami Tensei. So I hope that SMT5 will come out this year. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Misa, for coming on and submitting what the series means to you. Really, really appreciate getting your perspective on that. And hopefully we can get you on the podcast proper one day soon. Who knows? Schedules are weird. But without further ado, someone's name who kind of makes me think of cats, at least if they were black, is Kuro from the Midnight Channel. So, Kuro, what does SMT mean to you?
Hey Spencer, how's it going? Before we even start with the video and everything, I want to thank you so much for doing this kind of videos again. I really love when the community does this kind of stuff because it just kind of brings everybody together, talking about some positive stuff, talking about some things that matter, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. This kind of stuff just really matters so much. So the question is, what does Shin Megami Tensei and Persona mean to you, or to me in this case? And I guess like everybody else, there's always gonna be like something about the series that really helps you or motivate you and that kind of stuff. To me, I met Persona 3 whenever I was going through a pretty rough patch in my life. I was going through some stuff. My grandfather had just passed away and everything, and I just found the themes in Persona 3 just kind of hit me on a personal level. There was a lot of stuff going on in the game or in my life that just kind of related to each other, and it just really helped me so much to go through a lot of stuff. And honestly, it was just such a breath of fresh air whenever I started playing the game, and I just started my love for the game, my love for the series and everything. It just helped me so much. I started playing more SMT games and more other Persona games and everything. And overall, it's just again helped me so much learn and grow as a person. There's a lot of themes and a lot of things that really just impacted me in a lot of different ways. But that's just the initial phase when I just met about the series and learned more about it. It just really helped me a whole lot, and that's just on a personal level. Even deeper than that, now once that I started my channel and everything, and I started coming together with the community and everything, it's just really helped me so much as far as like meeting new people, such as yourself, Spencer, or David, or LaRue. Like there's just so many people that I've been talking to, so many people that I've been making friends with, that people that I even known for some time because of things like Twitter and Facebook and everything. And I just learned much more about the community. It's just in more than that, the community itself has just helped me so much, and that's also another aspect that I just really love, and it really just changed me so much with the YouTube channel and everything like that. It's just helped me so much, especially through 2020 and last year, where things just weren't going super well for a lot of people, including myself. It's just having this community and kind of talking to them and just doing the hobby and everything just really helped me go through things and everything. So it's just, two different aspects of the series that really helped me a whole lot. And that's just deeper than just playing the games. It's just, participating with the community, just being there for each other and everything. A lot of people in the channel that I met, made friends with and everything over time just it definitely has a lot of meanings. But anyway, thank you so much for again making this kind of stuff. I really appreciate all that. But yeah, that's my 2 cents there. That's why the community again, the series just means so much to me.
Thanks so much for that, Kuro. Really, really appreciate having you on. And it's been awesome not only guest appearing on your podcast, but also having you on here. So, as you mentioned on there, we've met lots of different people on there, and one of them you mentioned was David from DavidCast RPGs, and might as well just throw David on here as well.
What's up everyone, David here, and today I am here to tell you guys what Shin Megami Tensei means to me. There's a lot to say, so let's jump right in. First of all, Shin Megami Tensei is more than just a video game series to me, it is a complete passion at this point. From creating content on anything SMT to playing the games to interacting with friends online and all around the world, or even finding new friends, SMT did a lot for me. I am extremely grateful for Shin Megami Tensei because this is where my real love for RPGs first started. At first I was playing some RPGs here and there, the Final Fantasies, the Dragon Quest and stuff like that, but I was never extremely invested and mostly playing RPGs like I am today. So I found out about lots of different franchises, RPGs franchises and series around the world because of Megaten in particular. When I first played a Shin Megami Tensei game, this is when I completely fell in love with this genre in particular and of course with the series. 7 years after I played my first Megaten game, I decided to finally start something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. A YouTube channel. I started in 2020 recording and creating content talking all about Shin Megami Tensei. It took me a long time to finally start a YouTube channel and I've been wanting to do it for a long time, so I'm extremely grateful for that. And of course, as some of you may know, my channel is focused on my passion, Shin Megami Tensei, Persona, Atlas, everything like this. To this day, I play and look forward with all the fans around the world to every single Megaten entry. I adore my time creating content for everyone and man, I really do love Shin Megami Tensei. SMT to me is all about the gaming experience and everything around it.
Thank you again, David. Really appreciate you submitting and being able to get this on here for all of us to hear. Next up, we have another person I met, this time through Twitter. We have King Narukami, which some of you might know as King Narukami45 on Twitter. So let's see what SMT means to them.
Hey guys, it's King Narukami45 from Twitter. For those who don't know me, I'm a Persona content creator, and I try to spread positivity into the Persona fandom every day. We have a great community, and I'm excited to talk about what Shin Megami Tensei means to me today. Back in October 2019, I completed my first playthrough of Persona 5. It took me 3 tries to get into the game since it was my first JRPG, but I fell in love with the lore, characters, and the battle system. However, this isn't a speech about how I got into the Persona series. Persona 5 was there for me during a rough point in my life. My anxiety was running out of control, and I was totally lost as to my place in life. Every day was a struggle just to get out of bed, but Persona 5 was there to comfort me when I needed it the most. I think that's why it's one of the main reasons why this series means so much to me. While we're talking about a critical point in my life, a character from Persona 4 Golden actually helped me build up the courage to change jobs. When I was playing Persona 4 Golden in February 2020, I was in the middle of finding a new career. The job I was at the time was dead end and it wasn't going to do anything to further my career. I wanted to change, but I was comfortable with where I was at. However, seeing Chie face the unknown head-on helped me through. Seeing her overcome so many obstacles with her courage inspired me to make a change for the better. Now I'm happy where I'm at and have a bright future in the company as well. Now let's fast forward a bit after I complete Persona 3 FES, Persona 4 Golden, and its many spin-off games. I then decided to rebrand my Twitter account to make my way into being a voice in the Persona community. Honestly, I did not expect it to take off like it did. I've met so many awesome people in the community like David, Kiro, Spencer, Faz, Nam, Riku, people I looked up to as content creators. I also met others that support me and have built up such a wonderful community. I also met my wonderful castmates from Persona 5 the abridged animation. I wouldn't change it for the world. That's another reason why Shin Megami Tensei means so much to me. SMT is also a way that my girlfriend and I connected with each other. My girlfriend has been a fan of the SMT series since she played Persona 3 years ago in high school. That game meant so much of her in a dark time in her life and quickly became one of her favorites. Here's a funny story. She actually told me not to play Persona 5 because she didn't think I would like it. I wasn't big into anime or RPGs. I tried it once and put it down. But after my third try, I was hooked. Fast forward 5 years of dating, we just play Persona 5 Roll together, and SMT is one of the ways we can connect together. Before I wrap up, I want to thank Spencer for inviting me onto his podcast, and I want to say congrats to 200 episodes. That's a huge milestone, and I couldn't be more honored to be a part of this amazing collaboration project. Thank you guys for listening to me today, and I'll catch you all later. King, out. Also, SMT5 2022. Am I right, David?
I could not agree more. Mostly with what he said, but probably a little bit with the fact that SMT5 is more than likely not actually coming out this year. But hey, that's just me being a big old negative Nancy. Speaking of someone who's never a negative Nancy, especially on Twitter, here we have Cameron from DualShockers.
What's up, everybody? My name is Cameron Hawkins from DualShockers.com, and I'm here to talk to you about Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. I mean, what is there not to like about Shin Megami Tensei and Persona? They are phenomenal JRPG series that you can just rely on having great gameplay, great cast of characters, just an incredibly good time. I think that, Atlas has proven that Shin Megami Tensei and even Persona should be in that conversation alongside like the Final Fantasy franchise and the Dragon Quest franchise and those iconic JRPG franchises to be one of those staples in the genre. They have just made both those franchises, whether it be Shin Megami Tensei or Persona, as games that you can always, again, rely on to be great and have something to look forward to in those games, something new, something fresh. And again, they just have great charm. It's just great. Overall, it's really hard to say anything more than that, but I love Shin Megami Tensei, I love Persona, and I can't wait to see what Atlas does with those franchises next.
Thanks so much for that, Cam. Really, really appreciate you being able to contribute to this. So, might as well get the other half of the DualShockers representation on this podcast next. I have Alyssa James here, and just a little bit of a heads up, audio is a little bit garbled, but I'm mostly going to chalk that up to the fact that you can still hear her all the way, and also just assume that it was basically trying to reference Soul Hackers, which makes it like automatically the best entry we got. So, without further ado, let's see what SMT means to her.
I've been a fan of the Shin Megami Tensei franchise for many years now, ever since I picked up Persona 3 FDS on a whim in college. And while the games themselves bring me so much joy, I think what makes SMT so special to me is the strong sense of community. Though cliche it may be, I don't think I've ever been a part of a community so dedicated and close-knit as this one. When I first started writing for DualShockers and began reporting intensively on SMT and Persona titles, I already began amassing a loyal fan base of people who genuinely enjoyed my news coverage and editorials. After taking a break, I was then asked to join the Mega 10 Marathon podcast and had the opportunity to make friends with even more fans of the franchise while spreading my own love for it. From there, I rejoined DualShockers to continue my news coverage and deep editorial analyses of SMT. Thanks to that, I met and interviewed the head PR agent from Atlas West, who's as dedicated and passionate about the series as any fan and brings a palpable energy to her work. I also met other industry professionals who shared the same passion and love of the franchise as me, and was even able to meet a few voice actors from Persona 5. Getting to know other longtime fans through social media has truly been one of the highlights of my long stint with the community, and I've been able to share so many wonderful experiences by guest starring on podcasts, chatting casually about what games we love and look forward to, and watching incredible fan projects come to life. It's been a long road and a true honor being a part of the Shin Megami Tensei community. Every day I find myself grateful for the memories that I've been able to form and hope that I can continue to create more with everyone.
Thank you so much for that awesome submission. Really, really nice to hear, especially from someone like me who's been working in the media from different sides, whether it be podcasting or editorial. So really appreciate having some DualShockers representation on here. So really, really awesome, and cannot wait to get both of you guys back on the podcast ASAP. Now, next up, we have a SMT to me statement from Demi Crow. So, without further ado, here is part Demi Fiend, part Crow, all SMT fan.
I'm going to tell how I got into SMT/Persona. So I got into this series from just listening to a random playlist of random songs, and when I got to the playlist and got to the fifth song, I played PQ2, Road Less Taken. Yes, PQ2. Very, very late in the series. It's later that night I watched Joni also play Persona 5. And the same night I bought Persona 5 and got free comic shooters and almost got free help out around my palace. That night in playing P5 and other Persona games meant so much to me because I've had times where I've been struggling and P5 came along and gave me the happiness that I still feel today. So I'm recording this later because I just want to know, but I'm just so thankful how welcoming the community is. Like, I didn't know anything about Persona until like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and then literally this year I just started getting into basically making content. I've had great abundance of people commenting on my videos and being like, great idea, but I have something to tell you, and I really respect that. So thank you for the community being so open and having new people come into the community very easily. And I hope everyone's having a great time listening to this podcast like I am. See you guys. Thanks.
Alright, next up is Gab, or as some of you may know from her channel, GabMew. I've had Gab on the podcast a couple of times to talk about Persona 5 and Persona manga or SMT manga in general, which we are very long overdue for a discussion about, so hopefully we can rectify that very soon. But in the meantime, here is what SMT means to her.
What does Shin Megami Tensei / Persona mean to me? That's a great question. At first, this question really stumped me. There are multiple different aspects contributing to this. I can't say that I would have never gotten into the series if it wasn't for my good friend Shadow Elite HD, who always hyped it up. Collecting these games over the years, I've managed to become friends with some incredible content creators like him, as well as others around the community. People talk about having a favorite series, but sometimes it's pulled into reality, whether it's buying merch, playing the games, or connecting to those who just love the series. Especially with one that has managed to impact this generation of gaming so much. I can't think of a game that has contributed to my life more. This series is a part of me, and at this point, I'm just in too deep. But nonetheless, I deeply and truly love the series, and I'm thankful, although I started late in the game, I still found it, and it found me.
Alright, thanks again, Gab, for the awesome submission. Next up, we have a submission from Once Then Twice. Take it away.
What stands out to me about Megami Tensei is the combat. It truly is depth within simplicity. A person does a lot of what they do in other JRPGs, just with more of a focus put on weaknesses and buffs. Those moments when your back is against the wall, as you consider what will get you out of a fight alive, are some of the highlights when playing JRPGs. And the Megami Tensei series makes that happen frequently. Something I'd like for the series to continue to evolve is the alignment system and characters. They introduced the reason system with SMT3 supposedly because Law and Chaos was becoming stale, but have since continued using that system in Strange Journey and SMT4. I think Megami Tensei has the potential to bring more compelling choices and consequences to a genre that's almost devoid of it. For SMT exclusively, I'd like to see characters with layers, not just representatives of an ideology. I also would like to see Megami Tensei stray from using silent protagonists for the games. There is a lot more storytelling potential for protagonists with arcs, like Tetsuya and Maya. More than any other franchise, I have to thank Megami Tensei for getting me into JRPGs. I was someone who dabbled in Western role-playing games, but never got into JRPGs. I would have probably taken much longer to get into games like Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem, etc. if it weren't for Megami Tensei. It also opened me up to getting into tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder during my high school years, which in turn led to me making more friends within those kinds of groups. It's somewhat life-changing in that regard.
Thanks for another awesome entry. Next one comes from Bao, and I am 99% sure I would totally butcher the last part of your name, so I will, without further ado, give it over to you. Here's what SMT means to Bao.
Hey guys, my name is Bowser Karga, and when I hear the question, what does SMT mean to me, I think of how unique the Shin Megami Tensei series is, and I think that's the major underlying reason for my love for it. Whether it's the mainline series, Devil Survivor, Digital Devil Saga, or even Persona, when you play an SMT game, you know that you're getting an experience unlike any other RPG series. You know that the devs aren't afraid to go to dark and real places no other RPG series dares to go. To illustrate my point, let's take what's possibly my favorite SMT game, Devil Survivor. It starts off with a group of kids on summer vacation and slowly escalates into a lockdown where survival the fittest rules with demons running rampant. And then depending on what route you want to take, you can even become a king of demons or work alongside God to bring order to the world. There's no other RPG series out there that explores the themes and concepts that SMT does. I got into the series with Persona, and I branched out from there to the main series and other side games, and even now a decade later, I know I'm getting a special experience when I load up an SMT game for the first time. And I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. I've met several now good friends through our mutual love for this series, and I've introduced a handful of friends to the first SMT games over the years. So when you get down to it, what SMT means to me is a unique series unlike any other that has brought some of the most amazing people into my life.
Thank you again for that, Bao. Really hits home for where you're coming from there, and I could not agree more. It's almost as satisfying as it is meeting people in this community as it is introducing them with all the different games, no matter what their starting point is, whether it be Nocturne, whether it be Dancing All Night, or even something like Ultimax. So, next up we have Golden Playhouse, and let's hear what SMT and Persona means to them.
What's up guys, Golden Playhouse here, and today I want to be talking about what SMT means to me in general, the entire Megaten series in general, what it means to me. Let me take you back to when I played Persona 5 Royal. It was like I remember that one night on March before my birthday, before I turned 14, that my mom and dad went to Walmart, and this was in the middle of a freaking pandemic, guys. So, I don't know. It was surprising that they actually did it, since I got a good grade on my test for like seventh grade in the summer. So then I played that game, and it was amazing. It was just amazing in general. I really loved the animated cutscenes. It was so beautiful, and I even learned that Shibuya was actually a real place in Japan. And then after that, I tried SMT Free Nocturne and other games. And SMT and Persona are an experience to anyone who's played an RPG. Like, for example, I used to be just a Square Enix boy, but look at me now. I'm now a guy who plays other RPGs, and it's thanks to Atlas West for making Persona 5 Royal possible. It's thanks to Atlas that I now go and do other stuff and play other RPGs, because Persona 5 and other SMT and Persona games have made me into the person I am today, doing videos and all that stuff. It's thanks to this game right here that just changed my entire thing about what an RPG can be about.
Thank you for that, Golden Playhouse, and I think you might be giving that Torin guy a run for his money for youngest person to actually be on this 200th episode podcast, so shoutouts to you for doing that. Now, we're going to take a little bit of a break after this next entry, but I had to give it a very special place and kind of put it a little bit towards the end, and that is for my good friend Andre. Andre is another SMTN mod who has been helping me out as a fellow admin on the Facebook group, helped me out on Discord, has just always been a great person to talk to, always someone I wish I could spend more time talking to, but Andre, you are such a critical backbone and a part of helping the Facebook group be what it is, help maintain it, keep the quality we're at. I remember for the longest time just being like, I don't really need anybody, I don't really need anybody. And not from like a sense of feeling like only I should be the one to do this, I don't want anyone else to do community management and stuff like that, but honestly, like some of my favorite memories were having that original almost like election process we had in the Facebook group all those years back of having everyone basically make campaign ads of why they should become a admin or a mod in the Facebook group, and just memories like that are so fun. Talking about you with stuff, whether it just be something like uppers or even like just like getting your opinion on games like Monster Hunter. Really, really appreciate all the stuff you do for us, man, and I cannot wait to hear your entry.
What does SMT mean to me? I don't know. I guess I could say it means a lot. I was able to meet Spencer and Torin, Kat, and Marcus, and all sorts of people because of this game series. I was able to get interested in different religions and demonology and different gods and stuff because of it. I was interested in learning how different stories take on the alignments and whatnot. I was interested in art and music from it and people who were inspired by Megami Tensei. So yeah, it means a lot to me, I guess, if what I said makes any sense. Without it, I probably wouldn't be here. So it means a lot. Despite all the bad shit that happens with this fan base, they somehow turn it around when it means the most. And we're able to come together and do something amazing. This fan base is fucking insane. Just like the series. Can you feel it? The world, universe. You're all a part of it. Yet also all of it. It includes law and chaos within it too. I can sense it. Our connections to all life. The vibration of the particles. The winding of the galaxies. The beating of our hearts. All of it.
Andre, man, I know I reached out to you personally after you submitted this clip, but once again, I just gotta say, for as cheesy as some people may think that is, that absolutely just hit me like right in the home. I mean, I know we've only ever met each other once in real life, but with just how many like times we've ever talked throughout all the years, again, I cannot stress enough, man. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for being a part of SMTN, and more importantly, thank you for being a part of my life. Now, next up, we have a clip from Ches El Prez, and I'm sorry if the audio quality is a little bit weird on this one. I absolutely could not get this clip off any other better way, so you are hearing a recording off the microphone. Very ghetto, but hey, you're already an hour into this, so try not to judge me too hard. Well, either way, here's what SMT means to Ches El Prez.
What SMT means to me? Well, I'm not really too deep into everything, but I hope that my experiences could still count. So, SMT to me was and still is a way for me to connect with my friends. It's a community which I felt like I belonged in. It's like one of my first communities. And even though my focus right now has switched from SMT, I still value it as the first real ever community in Twitter that I've ever joined in. And through that, I've met so many amazing people, so many friends, that I'm really grateful for it. Now, as for my story, it's not really anything special either. when I think of SMT, I think about going home from school and just booting up my PS4, turning on Persona 5, and just grinding the game. The hours I put into that game were amazing, and I had a blast playing that game. So, yeah. I'm sorry that my recording isn't too long. It probably didn't reach the threshold, and it might not be included in the thing. So yeah, I apologize for that. But yeah, that's what SMT means to me. Thanks for taking your time out of your day.
Chaz, thank you so much for the super sincere and just super wholesome submission. Don't worry about the length. Don't worry about the contents. This is just meant to be a place for people in the community to reach out and be heard and hopefully meet some other people along the way or just learn some interesting stories. So thank you again so much. I really, really appreciated being able to get you on the show. Also, speaking of getting people on the show, next up we have someone that probably a couple of you might know. This is Mystic Distance from Twitter, and here is what SMT means to them.
So, you asked me to tell you what Megaten means to me, and that's simple. Megaten has been one of the most defining JRPG franchises in history. The series as a whole has encompassed some very unique, as well as interesting, changes to the entire system of how we work with leveling up characters, fusing demons, and has inspired many games, as we've seen with the modern Digimon games. But one of the most important parts of the series to me is the choices that you're able to make. Whether you're playing through Persona or Devil Survivor or mainline Shin Megami Tensei, there's always that feeling that you have full control of the narrative to some extent. That even though every ending in some ways may be linear, there are different variations in how you reach that ending. One of my favorite Megaten games is Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. While there are many endings, the way that your character interacts with the world, the grueling difficulty, the atmospheric soundtrack and ambient sounds really add to that full experience. Even though most JRPGs are filled with menus or filled with different, more similar systems, the way that the game's aesthetic comes to life is what has made every Atlus game, especially the Megaten franchise, so unique. Whether you're playing through a narrative-based game like the digital Devil Saga games, or you're playing through Nocturne, or you're playing through Shin Megami Tensei 4, or you're playing through a Persona game, there's a unique Atlus aesthetic that encompasses the game in every single way. If you boot up a Persona game, there's that feeling in Persona 5 of that nice, unique, modern-day, yet rebellious atmosphere that permeates the entire experience. Whether you're going through the menus, you're speaking to a shop owner, or you're speaking to a Y, there's always a unique sense of atmosphere that has always added unique influence to each Atlus game. Whether it's reading what directors, from Hashino to people like Hitajo who compose the music, or Meguro who compose the basic main music of the Persona series, as well as Nocturne and the Digital Devil Saga franchise, there's always something unique to the way Atlus crafts their games. And Megaten definitely holds a special place in my heart. It's connected me to so many people, was a major part of why I became so involved in Japanese localization. It is why I've become so involved in JRPGs as a whole, is because even as a young kid who had gotten into Persona during 4th grade, I had been really intrigued with the way Atlus had presented their games. And it's no secret. I think that one major point to anybody getting into Megaten is to definitely just start wherever you want, because no matter what Megaten game is your first, you're always going to have a unique experience that you'll remember. And it's definitely a better time than ever to get involved and start playing a game in this franchise.
Thanks, Mystic. It was really nice to be able to get you on here and hear a little bit of your perspective on the series, at least in a not Twitter format. So, much like everybody else, hopefully we can get you on the podcast sometime in 2021 and elaborate in a little bit longer than 2 to 3 minute conversations for everybody. So next up, we're going to do something a little bit different. I have a couple of text-only entries just because some people wanted to let the world know what they thought, but whether multiple reasons got in the way, we're only able to submit it through text. So first one comes from you. So the first one comes from @PersonaFanboy with an I or 13 Snuggle. And they say, I started with Persona Q, and that was one of the first JRPGs I've ever played. And then I discovered Persona 4 Golden, and it changed the way I view about life. I realized something when my 9-year-old self finished it, and we always have a dark feeling that we run from, and each Persona game has taught me more. And SMT4 was the 4th RPG I ever played, and it was amazing for 10-year-old me to get. I don't want this to be too long, but I'm going to end it there. Signed, 13 Snuggle. So, thank you so much for including that little entry there, and also, boy, if I thought I was really young playing Revelations at like 6 years old, you have definitely got me beat with SMT4 at like 10. Alright, last and certainly not least, we have Faz on Twitter, otherwise known as Scrambled Faz, or you might know Faz from some of their videos on YouTube. They say the following: I still remember when the Royal launched back in 2019. I was debating on if I should buy the game and record it or not. Spoilers, I'm really glad I did. Not only has the game literally changed my life, I've met so many awesome people. I love talking about the Persona games with other people, and it keeps me motivated to keep creating more Persona content. I'm currently playing through my SMT backlog, and those games are so much fun as well. I can't wait for SMT5 and other Atlas games that they're giving us in 2021. Faz, thank you so much. I'm really glad we were able to get you and 13 Snuggle included as well. Now, before I wrap anything up, we have one final submission, and I just want to say thank you all for listening to this. I know this wasn't the most unifiedly, amazingly edited podcast of all time. I was really debating for a long time of, do I want to put music under everybody? Do I want it to just be one continuous song? Do I want one song going into everyone? And I just kind of thought, like, this is a podcast where people are just kind of, like, speaking from their heart. And I don't want to just assume what song fits with, like, what's coming from them. Like, what means something to them. I don't want, like, someone to be pouring their heart out and I put Burn My Dread there. And, like, obviously, like, I know I'm terrible at reading a room, but hopefully I'd at least know not to do that. So this is me saying I'm not going to do that. But I just want to say, if you've stuck it out this long, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to episode 200. Thank you for helping me get to episode 200. Thank you for making SMTN what it is. Because guess what? If you're someone who tweets at us, likes our tweets, is just hanging out in the Discord, hanging out in the Facebook group, likes the Facebook page, subscribes to us on iTunes, or listens to us on Spotify, never interacts with us ever, or just likes a YouTube video, doesn't say anything. Doesn't matter. You're part of Shin Megami Tensei Network. And that, at least to me, is really, really special, because I know your time is valuable. I know that there are tons of other things people could be doing, and listening to some random white guy in Kansas talking about this for the past 8+ years might sound pretty boring on paper, but I'm at least glad somebody out there enjoys hearing my opinions. So, thank you all so much. Thank you for making SMT to me such a special thing. And I hope if you either learned something, heard yourself on this, or just thought, oh, hey, I thought this person had a really interesting story, reach out to them, hang out in the Discord. If this even helps one more person be motivated to want to be a little more active in the community, I feel like I'm doing my job right. And I mean, I say this is a job, but let's be real, I'm not making any money off this thing. So, either way, thank you all so much. This is way too long for a goodbye, but compared to how long episode 100 was, this is at least a little bit more manageable. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope it was easy for everyone to kind of listen, make it digestible. Either way, I know I've said either way a bajillion times, but I just want to let you all know how much doing this really meant to me. And was this what I wanted for episode 200? Planning back in 2020? Definitely not. Did getting sick throw a huge wrench hole in that? Yes. But at the end of the day, I didn't want anything to stop me from celebrating this in some way that I thought was special. And I know that there are multiple now Megaten related podcasts out there, but I take pride in the fact that not only am I doing this weekly, not only is this part of a larger community, there's a reason this isn't called the Spencer Presley Podcast. This is called Shin Megami Tensei Network because it is a network, it is a community, it is all of us coming together. I am the person who talks into the microphone every week because, let's be honest, I need an outlet to talk to, and I love talking to all of you, so... I am not the network. You are the network. We are the network. SMTN is not going anywhere. It is never going anywhere. As long as there is air in my lungs, I will be here to help bolster this community the best way I can and make it, if not a bastion for something that people can be proud of being a part of, at the very least, something that people can take some level of enjoyment being in, participating, talking to people, etc. Either way, I am proud to announce our last entry for SMT to me, and that is Mirth, who was brave enough to include a song. So how could I not include Mirth as the outro song? It seemed like the only fitting thing to do. So without further ado, here is Maze of Life by Mirth. Thank you all so much for your entries. Thank you, Mirth, for the awesome song. And here is to hopefully another 200 episodes of Shin Megami Tensei Network. See you guys.
We all love Persona music, and this series' music means a lot to me. And although I'm not much of an audio engineer and an amateur singer at best, I still love to sing. This series even pushed me to sing on stage, so instead of telling a story, I'm just gonna sing for you all.
Ain't it great how we met each other on this wild and crazy carousel of life? Ain't it cool how it changed the path of our lives, set us off on new adventures? This carousel takes us round and round, this labyrinth of life. You can't tell up from down, having so much fun. We forgot to check where this crossroad's taking us. But hey, here we come, this carousel spins us round so much. Sometimes you don't know, should you stay on or get off? It's only just begun. Welcome to this wild maze of life.